Mauh here. Welcome to my channel, Mauh. I am doing a video today on bodybuilding, religion, and spirituality. I recently received a question as to how my change of faith and how my religion affected me as a bodybuilder. Recently, I haven't been doing any bodybuilding because the gyms are closed here where I live, and they've been closed pretty much since last March. They opened for a few months in the spring, but we had to wear masks, and it was there were a limited amount of people allowed in the gym, so it was very different. So I'm going to be talking today about bodybuilding, spirituality, and religion. And I have my sister's cat Citrus here. She just walked in through the door. She opened the door herself. Hey, Citrus. So I'm going to start out by answering the question, what is bodybuilding? Because some people may not know what bodybuilding is, even though I'm pretty sure it's pretty straightforward. Bodybuilding is a sport. It is a sport where sorry, the cat's rubbing himself on the box that I have the camera on. So it's a sport where you challenge your muscles. It's a sport much like an art as well. It's very much like an art because we are the sculptors of our bodies, and we have to sculpt our bodies to be presentable to the judges if we're going to do a competition. But most bodybuilders want the same thing when they're going for their aesthetics, which is basically like an X frame. So broad shoulders, sweeping thighs, quad muscles, I should say, small waist, good abs, good muscle definition in pretty much all the muscles. So I started bodybuilding. I started working out when I was about 18, but prior to that, I was working out at home for a little bit before I joined the gym. And the way I got into bodybuilding was Citrus. The way I got into bodybuilding was I started running with one of my ex-boyfriends, and then when I broke up with him, I ended up going to the YMCA and I started working out there. I did a lot of cardio, but I did start working out on my lower body. I didn't really care much to work out my upper body because I wasn't wanting to really build my upper body. I was pretty satisfied with my upper body. But eventually I met a new boyfriend, and he was going to a gym called Monster Gym, and it was like an old school bodybuilding gym where there was a lot of very muscular men, and bodybuilding was a lifestyle for them, because bodybuilding is a lifestyle. You have to eat, sleep, dream bodybuilding if you want to be a bodybuilder and be successful. So that is pretty much what bodybuilding is, but you have to keep challenging your muscles to be a bodybuilder. You have to keep increasing the weight on your exercises and focusing on specific muscles with different exercises to grow or define those muscles. So how is bodybuilding spiritual? So I'm going to get right into it. How is bodybuilding spiritual? Well, like I said, it's very much like an art. So there is you have to look in the mirror and you have to say, okay, what is it that's going to make my aesthetic more pleasing to me? Because if you're into bodybuilding, you like the aesthetic of what bodybuilding makes you look like. So you have an idea of what a good bodybuilder looks like. So you're looking in the mirror and you're saying, you might be you might be comparing yourself to another female bodybuilder who may be a competitor, and she's won a lot. I know I had a lot of female bodybuilders that I looked up to as they were competitors, and they got really high up in the competition ranks. And so I would compare myself to them, and I would look at myself in the mirror and I would say, okay, I have to work on my shoulders, I have to work on my abs, I have to work on my quads, I have to work on my calves, I have to work on my lats, So I also took a couple personal training courses online to be a personal trainer. I took a bodybuilding course. I took a personal trainer course. I took a bodybuilding course. I took a nutrition course, and I was a personal trainer for a little while. So bodybuilding is spiritual because it's very artistic, because you have to you have to put two and two together. You have to say, okay, I want my body to look like this. So you have to know the exercises. You have to know that if you're going to be doing a specific exercise, you're going to be working on your shoulders. And so your shoulders will grow. So it's spiritual because you're connecting with your body and you're connecting with your sense of aesthetic. And you're connecting with your self-discipline, which is also a very spiritual act, because you have to see yourself in a light where you can criticize yourself, so to speak, because you have to say, okay, well, this is not the way it's supposed to look. And so you're actually kind of, I wouldn't say tearing yourself down, but just like I said, maybe criticizing a little bit, like a judge would criticize you if they were looking at you on the stage. So what were you taught about this sport of bodybuilding growing up? So, like I said, I didn't get into bodybuilding till after I turned 18, probably around 21, 22, I got into bodybuilding. Maybe even later than that. Yeah, 21, 22 actually. And when I started getting into bodybuilding, my body started to change and I started to look more quote unquote manly. And what I was taught was that, well, my mother didn't like my shoulders being broad and muscular. She didn't like the way that looked. So I got the impression from her that she didn't like the muscular physique. And my father doesn't like the way bodybuilding men look. He thinks it's unnatural and it's grotesque. And also because the sport of bodybuilding, if you really love the sport of bodybuilding, I was told that you have to compete eventually because you love it so much that you want to compete and you want to be on stage with all those other muscular physiques. So I was taught that it wasn't natural, and I was taught that it was ugly, and that I shouldn't be aiming to get my body to look like that. And a lot of people believe that. Um, and even sometimes I would believe that because I would, at one point, I stopped bodybuilding for a little while, maybe a year or so, and my body retained its shape for a long time. And because I wasn't as lean as I was when I was working out, my body put, weight onto my muscular areas. And so those different areas were defined more muscular because they had a lot more padding on them. So at one point I wasn't into bodybuilding, maybe for 6 months to a year. And I wondered to myself, why did I do this to my body? I don't look feminine. I don't look, like a normal girl's, quote unquote. And I was dating just a regular guy who wasn't into bodybuilding. So that's why I kind of thought that maybe I shouldn't have done that to my body. And it's hard to reverse it. Um, so I was basically taught that it's not a sport that I wanted to be involved, that I should be involved in, and it wasn't a sport that um, that was appealing to the eyes after what you do to your body. How did you get into bodybuilding? Like I said, I think I already answered that question, but I did start running with one of my ex-boyfriends. Then I started running at the YMCA. I got involved with weights and I broke up with that boyfriend after, and I got involved with another boyfriend who was into bodybuilding, and he took me to one of the famous bodybuilding gyms at the time, Monster Gym, and it just progressed from there. And eventually I started getting into supplements, which really helped me with my stamina, and eventually I got into steroids, which really helped me with my physique, really leaned me out, and gave me a lot more strength. So how did you feel while on prep? Oh, and I just want to say that I bought my own steroids. I was with a boyfriend who was doing steroids, and I asked him if I could buy them, and I purchased them with my own money through his source of steroid provision. So how did you feel while on prep? So I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but I did end up in 2019. I did end up doing a competition. I'll show you some photos of that. So I did end up doing a competition and I won first place in a figure competition in 2019. It was an amateur competition, but I still won two categories that I was in, the only two categories that I was in, figure over 35 and figure classical figure. And I won overall. I got the 24 roses, the tiara, the gifts, one, it wasn't anything super special. It was like a gift to take a plane with some, to get some discount on some plane company that I had never heard of, and a 3-month a 3-month subscription to a bodybuilding gym that was really out of my area, so I never used it and I never went. But I did do prep. And how did I feel while I was on prep? So I did a lot of intuitive, I didn't have, like, because I had taken my own personal training course and I knew about nutrition and I knew about calorie in, calorie out, how to lean down, how to expend more calories than you are taking in order to lose weight and to lean down. So I felt like I was, like, before I did my first competition, before I won that first competition, which was the only competition I did, I felt like I was on a roll because I was really disciplined. I was really focused on doing my cardio half an hour in the morning, going to the gym in the afternoon before work, and doing my 2 hours of time at the gym, eating, 6 times a day, small meals, low carbs, no sugar, lots of vegetables, lots of protein shakes, supplements. It's an expensive sport, but I did feel like I was getting somewhere while I was on prep. I was practicing my posing. I was feeling confident about my posing. I was feeling confident about my physique. But I was also getting really, really tired by the time after I won my first competition. I decided I was going to prepare for another competition. And at that point, I was working full time, and I didn't stop to take a break after my first competition. So when I started preparing for my second competition, I thought that for my second competition, I would come in a lot leaner. So again, I cut down a lot of the calories that I was intaking. I was working full time. I was doing at least 2.5 hours of gym and cardio. And if and I was taking steroids, and I also have a mental illness. So I was getting really tired. I was taking caffeine pills to keep up my stamina at work because my food intake was so low, and I was already physically exhausted from working out that morning and afternoon before going to work for 4 o'clock to midnight. I work 4 to midnight. So at first I felt really good on prep. I felt like I was intuitively knowing how to guide myself through eating and getting leaner. I could see the leanness coming in. I could see the veins coming in my arms. I could see the veins, in my stomach. So I felt good at first on prep, but eventually it got the best of me. How did you feel before you started for competition prep? So before I started competition prep, I kind of felt like I wanted to take it. I always felt like I wanted to take bodybuilding to the next step and do a competition. When I was 25 years old, one of the personal trainers at Monster Gym told me that if you love bodybuilding, then you will eventually compete. And at that time, I was looking pretty much competition ready, but a lot of people were telling me I should compete, but I didn't feel like I was confident with my body enough to compete. But fast forward to my 38th year of life, I decided that it's now or never, and I'm going to try to compete and get as far as I can in the bodybuilding world as far as winning competition goes. So what does bodybuilding teach you? Bodybuilding teaches you discipline. If there's one thing that bodybuilding teaches you, it's discipline. You really have to get yourself to the gym. You have to do the exercises. You have to push yourself to lift heavier weight. You have to push yourself to do more repetitions. You have to push yourself to do more sets. You have to push yourself to eat right. You have to push yourself to take your supplements, buy the supplements. You don't have to take steroids, but I did take steroids 2 times in my life. Once when I was around 26, and then I stopped about a year later, and then once when I was in my 38th year of life, and that took me straight to the hospital because I got sick and I had a breakdown mentally. I was exhausted, I was drained, and I was having a lot of mental difficulty with my psychoses. So bodybuilding does teach you discipline, but if you take it too far, to an extreme, it teaches you that your body is not meant to be a machine. How are you affected by your bodybuilding prep? Like I said, my bodybuilding prep really tired me out eventually, and it landed me in the hospital. How do you achieve the discipline to bodybuild? You have to really want to achieve a certain look. You have to really want to push yourself to see yourself progress and get stronger. Like I said, I did do steroids, but the steroids aren't necessary to do bodybuilding. But to achieve a certain competition look, I feel like it's almost impossible for a woman not to take any sort of steroids. So the steroids actually prevented me from having a period for over a year. I was really lean, so lean that I had death face. I'll show you a good picture of me with death face. So that's what death face looks like, and it is basically when you are so depleted that your face looks like a skeleton, and that's what they call it in the bodybuilding world. They call it death face. So as you see, I was really depleted, and my face was very much a lot more gaunt than it is now. So how did I achieve the discipline to bodybuild? You just have to really want it. You just have to love the sport. You have to love the feeling of being sore on a regular basis, because you will be sore on a regular basis. Because if you're pushing yourself regularly to do heavier weight, you have to, the heavier weight breaks down the muscle, and then the muscle has to rebuild with protein and the right nutritional intake. You know, multivitamins and protein powder, and you know, the right nutrition, and a lot of a good sleep. You have to sleep to recuperate. How did your spiritual beliefs affect your bodybuilding? So I didn't compete for a long time because my religion, which was Christianity, is one where you have to be very modest. Like I grew up being very modest and never showing my stomach. And in a bodybuilding competition, you have to wear a bikini, and you have to basically show off your body, and you have to flex your muscles, and you have to be seen by you know, an audience and judged by judges. So I kind of felt for a long time, because I was raised to be so so conscious about my body and not showing it. I didn't want to compete for a long time because I didn't think it would be right to be on stage in a bikini. So that's how my spiritual beliefs or my religion affected my bodybuilding competition. But also it took me a long time to be confident enough to show my stomach at the gym, you know, to wear a crop top, or even wearing leggings was sort of like, should I wear leggings or should I not wear leggings? I mean, I'm showing off my whole lower body. Like my dad and would often think that leggings weren't appropriate, because unless you were covering your bottom with a long shirt, you're showing like basically what you look like through the leggings. So the last question I have is, can you be spiritual and bodybuild? And I think you can be spiritual and bodybuild. I think that bodybuilding is a very spiritual sport, because when you bodybuild, especially for me, when I bodybuild, I listen to my music. I'll change my music based on how I'm feeling, so that the music will pump me up to continue to be aggressive and to go hard, because it is an aggressive sport. And you know, you know, a lot of people when they bodybuild, they grunt, they sweat. You know, it's not a pretty thing to see a woman bodybuild, unless you're a bodybuilder or you like seeing bodybuilding women work out. I loved to watch bodybuilding women work out. I found it inspiring. I found it really inspiring to see them lift heavy weight, and it made me want to challenge myself to do the same exercises and lift as heavy. And you know, it's not a crime to take steroids. It's just that it was bad for my health, because I took them without taking a break. And like I said, I didn't have a period for over a year, and then it took me about half a year to a year to actually put the weight back on my body and to get healthy enough to be able to have a period again. But you can be spiritual in bodybuilding. Bodybuilding and spirituality can go hand in hand, and there's a lot of people who who are part of a religion who bodybuild, I'm sure. And discipline is, you know, bodybuilding teaches you discipline. And if you need discipline to be like spiritual, let's say you want to like, bodybuilding just teaches you discipline. And if you need discipline in any area of your life, if you can bodybuild, you can find the discipline to do whatever you need to do in life. So I'm just going to, before I close off this video, I'm going to shuffle my deck and pull a card out, just in case I forgot to say anything, and see if the card kind of jogs my memory to see what I might have forgot to say. Okay, so they got 2 cards. So I got the Strength card, which is pretty obvious. Like, you know, you have to be strong to bodybuild. You have to be willing to put up with the pain. You have to be willing to put up with a lot of people who will think that you look like a man, or that you look like you're too manly, or, you know, you have to be strong in your mind. You have to really want what you're going for, especially if you're going to compete. You have to be strong because you have to know moderation. You can't take steroids nonstop if you need to do that to do a competition. You have to know how to say no to eating junk food and sweets. There is an extreme to bodybuilding. Like, I'm not saying that there's not. I'm saying, like, if you do end up bodybuilding, like for me, I had a kind of an eating disorder after I finished my competition. I didn't go on to do the second competition. I stopped because I got sick and I ended up in the hospital. I was going to do a competition in Toronto for my pro card, because I was able to go to the competition because I won the first competition. So I was going to go to Toronto to do a competition where I could qualified to go to the competition where I could possibly win a pro card, International Federation of Bodybuilding pro card. But I heard that the girls that were there were different looking than me, and I wouldn't have fit in well with them. So the other card we got is the 3 of Wands. And the 3 of Wands is about like watching the movement of the ships, like either coming in or going out. The 3 of Wands is also like, you know, looking out on the horizon and, you know, imagining great things for yourself. And I think that, you know, if you're a young person and you want to get into bodybuilding, specifically bodybuilding, because there's a difference between lifting weights and bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is really meaning to grow your muscles, to define your muscles, to create a shape that is significant to bodybuilding. You know, doing weights, you know, you will get toned, you will get stronger, but it's not the same kind of sport as bodybuilding. So I think with the 3 of Wands, it's just saying that, like, if you want to be a bodybuilder, you have to have high aspirations for yourself. You have to believe that you can achieve a certain look, that you can achieve a certain discipline to get yourself to that look, that you can, you know, push yourself every day to get to the gym, or at least almost every day to get to the gym, and to eat the right foods and to get the right amount of sleep, and to still handle, you know, work and just an everyday, you know, social life. So yeah, so we got Strength and the 3 of Wands, and I feel like the Strength card is pretty good for this video because it's about being strong and, you know, the things that I have to say about bodybuilding, spirituality, and religion. So I feel like that's all I have to say, and I'll see you in my next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Bye.